Aloha, everyone. I'm Keli'i Akina, President and CEO of the Grassroot Institute. On behalf of the Board of Directors and the staff of the Grassroot Institute of Hawaii, I welcome you to this celebration in remembrance of our beloved founder and Chairman Emeritus, Colonel Richard Rowland. So many friends and supporters are joining us today that we need to use a webinar format where it's not possible for every one of you to see each other. But I want to acknowledge the Grassroot Institute partners and our board members, our scholars, our staff, and our guests who are in virtual attendance, as well as perhaps several members of the family of Dick. I believe we may have Michelle Rowland Senosuk, Justin Green, Tyler Green, Charlotte Green, and perhaps others of you. Thank you for joining us. I just invite everybody to imagine that we are all seated together. But we can't do that during this pandemic time, but we are here gathered to honor Dick Rowland. Right now, I'm speaking to you from the conference room of the Grassroot Institute in downtown Honolulu, surrounded by a few reminders of our founder, Dick Rowland. To my left, you'll see a set of flags. That set was actually purchased by Dick himself, along with hundreds of others, to give to supporters of the Grassroot Institute almost a decade ago. He believed in the American flag and in the Hawaiian flag and was a patriot wherever he went. In addition to that, you see to my right a framed copy of the Declaration of Independence. That is Dick's favorite document, and he was frequently carrying with him wherever he went a pocket version, and perhaps had several of them and gave many, many away. Dick believed that we were more than a set of values, but we believe in principles that are timeless, that are in the Declaration of Independence. He often quoted it. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Dick stood for those principles. In addition to that, you see a third item on my lapel. It's a little pin over here in green. It's in the shape of the kalo plant or the taro plant, which is very important in Hawaii. It goes back to a conversation Dick and I had in 2013 when he explained to me the reason that the name of our institution is Grassroot, singular, not grassroots. It's because he believed that there was a single truth from which we all emanate that unites us all, and yet we are all distinct. Well, that's just like the taro plant. There's a root from which different leaves grow, and that represents both the core value of truth and the diversity that Grassroot stands for. As a result, we formed a giving society called the Ehana Kako Giving Society. Ehana Kako means let's work together, based upon the root of truth, the Grassroot Institute, not grassroots. Well, you know, anyone who knew Dick knew what it was like to meet an irresistible force, friendly, persuasive, and filled with passion for the freedom principles. Dick was always doing something to make the world a little bit better. His energy and his enthusiasm were legendary. Those who knew him wouldn't be surprised to hear that in the last month of his life, he was deeply involved in organizing the census for his new home in Alabama. He loved to talk about that, and he made many new friends. In 2001, that passion and drive resulted in the creation of the Grassroot Institute of Hawaii, which was not brought into existence by a big grant or a foundation, but by the vision of a few dedicated residents led by the incomparable Dick Rowland. Dick was Hawaii's own beacon of liberty. He set into motion all that Grassroot Institute has been able to accomplish on behalf of individual liberty, economic freedom, and accountable government over the past 20 years. And he has left his mark on everything that we do. Not only did Dick shape the vision of our organization, but he helped mold its character too. Even today around the office, we get a lot of joy by repeating some of his famous sayings and aphorisms, especially when they can be used to win a debate or a policy point. Sit in on one of our team meetings and you're likely to hear a few tried and true Rowland-isms, like, when the government gets bigger, you get smaller. I can still hear him saying that. Or, if you can't govern yourself, you've got no business trying to govern others. He loved to say, progress is hard by the yard, but it's a cinch by the inch. And instead of the passive, have a great day, Dick would love to say, make your day great. And of course, the parting salutation on all his correspondence, upward. Our program today is simple yet profound. Several of Dick's friends and colleagues have joined us to share inspiring thoughts and memories in honor of Dick. Following their remarks, we have a video tribute to Dick and would love you to stay with us the entire time. You won't want to miss that. Joining us today as friends of Dick who are going to give a tribute in terms of their testimonial words is first Robin Stuber, who is the chairman of the board of the Grassroot Institute. When I first joined the Grassroot Institute, Dick introduced me to this vivacious, vibrant volunteer who in many ways represented everything that Dick stood for. He mentored her and indeed treated her as his own daughter in terms of patriotism and many values that he passed on to her. I'm sure he's very proud that today she carries on in his place as the chairperson of the Grassroot Institute. Please welcome to the podium now, our virtual podium, Robin Stuber. Robin?
Mahalo, Keli'i. And I'd like to just extend a very warm aloha to Dick's relatives and family who are watching either live right now or perhaps later on the recording. I first met Dick Rowland in 1990 while we were both working as independent agents at the Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company. Dick already had a thriving insurance practice, and while he embodied much of what I strove for as a professional, and he was helpful to me as a new agent, his exuberant persona and direct communication style had me feeling intimidated, to be honest. But I was impressed by him. I believed his interest in people and desire to help them was authentic and sincere. We didn't talk a lot about politics back then. I wasn't really interested in that much, but he gave me this pocket-sized copy of the US Constitution, and I read it cover to cover. And I learned more than I had ever known. It was an eye-opener. When Dick created the Grassroot Institute of Hawaii, he always invited me to participate in activities and often asked for my help and input. He included me in high-level conversations with impressive and influential business people, policy experts, and politicians, although I wasn't really sure why at the time. But in retrospect, I realized that he helped me to more closely connect the dynamics of politics and its effect on policy with the necessity for individual liberty and personal responsibility. It was the best way for me to see why he strongly believed in the power of the individual and the importance of civic participation to ensure transparency and accountability at all levels of government. Dick had a great saying: if you really want people to listen, you must learn how to walk the fine line between being persistent and obnoxious. Over the years, I began to more fully understand why he walked that fine line. And as he worked so hard to get out his message that it's not about left or right, but that it's about you getting smaller when the government gets bigger. In 2016, Dick asked me to join the Grassroot Institute's board of directors. Although I initially felt extraordinarily unqualified, I understood that I was standing in for the many forgotten men, women, and families in my community. Dick let me know that he trusted me like a daughter, and he believed in my dedication to the Grassroot Institute's principles and long-term success. I don't know if Dick realized how much he would be helping me when he asked me to join the board. My role as a board member and chairman has fostered courage in me, and working in the world of think tanks has helped me to develop a unique brand of leadership skills. Outside of my parents, Dick Rowland was the most influential and most important mentor in my life. His unwavering belief in me not only taught me more about myself, it also pushed me to be more authentic and ready to walk that fine line myself. When he passed, and through my profound sadness, I felt the tether that kept me safely and comfortably tied to the dock loosen. J.A. Shedd wrote, "A ship in the harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are built for." the Grassroot Institute of Hawaii now sails into the future under its own power, but Dick has built a stalwart ship. He has set us on a true course, and he has crewed us with skilled and loyal sailors. Dick was a lover of liberty, a consummate optimist, a believer in the human spirit, an indefatigable activator, and a fabulous storyteller who accentuated punchlines with a hearty, belly-driven laugh. I will forever be grateful to him as a mentor, a cherished friend, and a fellow American. I'd like to close by sharing Dick's favorite poem and ask you to reflect upon what this might mean to you. Bag of Tools by R.L. Sharp. Isn't it strange that princes and kings and clowns that caper in sawdust rings and common people like you and me are builders for eternity? Each is given a bag of tools, a shapeless mass, a book of rules, and each must make, ere life is flown, a stumbling block or a stepping stone. Mahalo.
Robin, thank you very much for those profound and very inspiring words. You make Dick seem as if he's in the room again with us. We love that poem very much. Next, we have Mark Moniscalco, who is also a member of the board of directors of the Grassroot Institute. With keen business acumen and a passion for liberty, Mark has helped Dick and the board to oversee the development of the Grassroot Institute. Mark, please share your thoughts with us now.
Thank you to everyone for joining today. Dick is a hero and deserves as much recognition as we can possibly give him. I was fortunate to have met Dick in the early 2000s. It was obvious from our first conversation that we both held a strong belief in the preeminence of individual liberty. Using humor and persuasive charm, Dick soon convinced me to attend a Grassroot Institute of Hawaii event. After several years of attending events and supporting the Grassroot Institute of Hawaii, Dick asked me to join the board of directors. I consider it a great honor that Dick trusted me with this responsibility. I learned many lessons from listening to and observing Dick, and I'd like to share 8 of those short lessons with you today. 1, hold on to your principles because values change, but principles do not. 2, the Declaration of Independence is the origin of our liberty. It is both aspirational and inspirational. 3, there are only 2 paths that we can travel: upward to liberty or downward to tyranny. 4, as government gets bigger, the individual gets smaller. 5, politics is downstream from culture. If we can persuade 10% of the population to follow a path upward toward liberty, we can change the political trajectory of Hawaii. 6, we persuade our friends and neighbors and colleagues by planting seeds of thought. 7, assemble new supporters and build little platoons. 8, provide a voice to the forgotten man. Finally, I wish to draw your attention to an old question. Is it better for a leader to be feared or loved? Dick provides us with the answer. He is a successful leader, not by instilling fear. He is successful because we love him. Thank you for allowing me to share these thoughts with you today.
Mark, thank you very much. I appreciate your thoughts very deeply, and I know that Dick is honored by them. Dick had many friends and partners he brought into the fold of Grassroot to become allies when we went to battle. Michael Lilly, the former Attorney General of Hawaii, was one of those great allies and dear friends who aided specifically in battles we took to court. Michael, would you take the podium, please?
Thank you, Kili'i. We are here to say farewell to a true American hero. I met Dick about 20 years ago when he founded Grassroot Hawaii, and I'm so impressed with its mission as a think tank dedicated to educate people about the values of individual liberty, economic freedom, and accountable government. These are quintessential American values that are unique to our nation. There are few patriots who measure success by how many lives they touch. Dick did that every day of his life. From the first time I met him and ever since, I never saw him without his trademark Panama hat and that broad smile on his face that just lit up the room. He made people feel good just being in his presence. Dick cherished every minute of every day and found happiness in tirelessly making the world a better place. In his 90 years on Earth, he lived a long time. He lived the American dream to the fullest, and he'll be remembered as an outstanding philanthropist and beacon for preserving the American dream. And I can remember the early days, I don't know how many others do, when he was vilified by people who were ignorant of his principles, thinking that he was some kind of right-wing ideologue. But he was nothing of the kind. In fact, he was a nonpartisan supporter of the founding principles of the United States. What I call John Kennedy liberals would find a kindred spirit in Dick Rowland. Anyone with reasonable, ordinary American values would find him a true hero. And he fought tirelessly for what he believed in. In business and in life, he was a man of great integrity and vision. He reflected that greatest generation that always served the best interests of his country and community. And in countless ways, he strived to strengthen our country and the state of Hawaii that he loved. My last work with Dick and Grassroot was when I was honored to be joined with Judicial Watch, and we filed a lawsuit to stop Hawaii from supporting an unconstitutional race-based Hawaiians only election. And that came to an abrupt end when we achieved an almost unheard of result. Justice Anthony Kennedy, who happened to also be a one-time professor, law school professor of mine, and later the entire US Supreme Court issued an injunction that stopped that unconstitutional election. I grew up watching Superman series in the 1950s. It's hard to imagine such a pro-American show today. Every show had an introduction which showed Superman before a fluttering American flag, and he and his alter ego, Clark Kent, the introduction stated, fought a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way. That was Dick Rowland, a Superman. And thank you, Dick, for helping so many discover America's values and instill pride in the United States. God bless you, Dick, and your family. Thank you.
Michael, thank you very much for those appropriate comments and reflections on Dick. I know that he appreciated your work greatly. Ken Conklin is a scholar and unwavering activist for equality who possesses a deep aloha for the Hawaiian people and the Hawaiian culture. Ken and Dick shared the vision of a system of representative government that is open to the participation of all people in the islands. And I know that Dick loved Ken very much and enjoyed getting together for any occasion. Please welcome now Ken Conklin.
Aloha kako, no kahaolia ike ya o ko ike ala. It's a joy to be with you all today. The Grassroot Institute is Dick's legacy to Hawaii, and his spirit will be manifest in its accomplishments. Dick inspired me to identify 5 principles of equality, unity, and aloha, which guide my work in support of liberty and individual rights, which he, of course, held dear. Number 1, all humans are equal in the eyes of God and filled with the aloha spirit, regardless of race. Number 2, all citizens should be treated equally under the law by our government, regardless of race. Number 3, Hawaii should remain unified with the United States, where we are legitimately the 50th state. Number 4, Hawaii should remain unified under the single sovereignty of the state of Hawaii. Our lands and people should not be divided along racial lines. But Kamehameha unified, let not politicians rip asunder. And number 5, Hawaiian culture and its practitioners are first among equals here, not because they are inherently entitled to be first, but because of the special place they have in our hearts for celebrating Hawaii as a special place. Eke aloha pumehana. Mahalo ya Dick Rowland. E moe me kamalu hia. We know.
Mahalo, Ken. Appreciate your comments very much. Our next speaker today is Jer Chrishell. Jer was a former senior fellow on the Grassroot Institute staff. Back in those days, Jer would do much of the policy work, especially on Native Hawaiian issues, under Dick's leadership. Jer has been an unflagging supporter of the Institute, although he's moved away to California where he does business now. Jer?
Aloha. Dick Rowland made for an incredibly strange Hawaiian. Sporting a Texas drawl and a perpetual Texas grin, he pulled my attention and my heart back to my homeland years after I had left for college and career on the mainland. He was a nexus of patriotic connections throughout the islands and the nation, and I had the great pleasure of working with him and other great Hawaiians, including Pumpkin Burgess, her husband Bill, Ken Conklin, and Thurston Twig Smith, fighting for civil rights in our beautiful islands over a decade ago. Our original collaborations occurred over primitive voice calls and emails, but Dick and I did get to meet in person a good number of times, both in Hawaii and Washington, D.C., where he connected me with other patriots, and we all sharpened our ideological swords in preparation for battles of wit and rhetoric with our opponents. Dick's brainchild, the Grassroot Institute of Hawaii, provided a banner for these efforts, and I was humbled to be inducted as a senior fellow for the Grassroot Institute of Hawaii by Dick, where I was blessed with a platform to write, speak, and learn more about the history of my homeland. And this was the sort of thing that Dick did all the time. He spent enormous effort and energy building people up, unlocking their potential, and gathering them together as fellow soldiers for liberty. His dedication to the ideals of freedom was as contagious as his Southern smile. And despite the entrenched and powerful opposition to equality under the law within our institutions, he was able to lead us forward and made amazing progress for the civil rights of each and every man, woman, and child in Hawaii, and by proxy, the entire United States. It was an honor to have known Dick as a friend, mentor, and fellow warrior. He introduced me to the work of stalwarts of the libertarian canon like Bastiat and Ayn Rand, and taught me that despite the earnest attempts of the mainstream media over generations to indoctrinate us all as socialists and social justice warlords, there were still vibrant communities of freedom-loving patriots fighting for freedom, doing their unsung work behind the vast shadows cast by our media industrial complex. My work with Dick Rowland slowed considerably after our decisive win against the Akaka bill, but over the years, I would still be pleasantly surprised to get calls from him. Most recently, just a few months ago from Alabama. He was a man who deeply cared about connections and looked at life with incredible happiness and gratitude, an example I work hard to emulate in my own life to this day. While we don't have yet any grand statues of Dick standing in the rotunda of the Hawaii State Capitol, and we don't yet have any national holidays dedicated to his life and his works, he leaves behind not only friends and family, but a legacy of freedom and joy. The great gift of his dreams live on in the many people he inspired and the works he took upon himself to pursue, which now go on in his spirit in the hands of those who knew and loved him. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Jer, and thank you for your continued work at the Institute. In keeping with Dick Rowland's vision, Grassroot Institute has evolved to increasingly focus on economic issues and is a leader in the state in analyzing and proposing better solutions for state government spending. Ken Skulland is one of our scholars, and he's an associate professor at Hawaii Pacific University. Ken and his wife, Lee, have been close friends of Dick Rowland, and they provide resources on economic issues such as the bestseller, The Adventures of Jonathan Gullible. Please welcome Ken and Lee Skulland at this time. I think we'll start with Ken.
Well, I'm very, very grateful to be here, Kili'i, and the whole group at Grassroot Institute. My gosh, what a great institution Dick has founded here. I first got to know Dick years ago through activities of the Libertarian Party of Hawaii, and he was the chair from 1995 to 97. And we also knew him as our insurance agent. Very, very nice and friendly guy. But I had no idea the depth of his knowledge and personal education. I never met him where he didn't have another book to pass along to me, because he was constantly reading, constantly exploring all the ideas across the broad spectrum of the political world. And I think he took to heart the advice that Friedrich Hayek gave to Anthony Fisher. When Anthony Fisher said, "I'm pretty excited about going into politics," and Friedrich Hayek said, "No, that's transient. That's going to pass away. Every politician does. But the things that will be lasting is the think tanks." So found the first free market think tank in England. I think that Dick Rowland decided that was the advice that he wanted to take. And he decided that that was the path to develop the shaping of ideas. And he could reach out to everybody across the political spectrum with his sweet reasonableness, and was so friendly and constantly drawing people back in a friendly way towards the principles of liberty. He was a great inspiration to us all. I think the thing that inspired me the most was his connection with so many organizations and institutes, Small Business Hawaii and Hawaii Reporter and State Policy Network. And he was always building connections, but he was also encouraging, and not only with the support of his own financial support for the Institute, but also for everybody in it, everybody around them. He was constantly encouraging to them. So I'm so grateful that I've known him and that he's been a part of our lives. Lee?
Yes, I miss Dick so much. I met Dick through Ken, my husband, when I came to Hawaii in 1988. So I've been a long time. And Dick and I shared a birthday, March 16th. So for many years, we would celebrate our birthday together. Dick to me is not just a partner in fighting for liberty. It's also like a father to me. He took very good care of me all these 30 some years. And I remember at the very beginning, right after I married Ken, and Ken will often went on a business trip, and Dick will always make sure to invite me to his house on weekends, so I won't feel very lonely. And he cared about my life, my career, my fight for liberty. And Dick taught me how to balance my checkbook, gave me instructions how to open bank accounts, manage my bank accounts. And when I look for a job, he gave me guidance, just one example, I said, I'm going to be a teacher at Iolani School. And they will say, okay, let me introduce you to the economic teacher there. And when I'm between jobs, they will find things for me to do so I will have some income. He really, really cared. And I remember I told him a story of my childhood. For all these 30 years, Dick remembered. I heard him telling other people my childhood stories. And he knew I love God, I love liberty, so he introduced me to the founders of Acton Institute. And for 20 years now, I'm work with Acton Institute until today. We are very good friends. And Dick also care about our daughter. When she was in school, Dick makes sure she get involved with local politics and with activities related to the libertarian movement. When Dick was a party chair of a libertarian party, he will not just when became after he became a party chair, he's always invite people to the Libertarian Party, and when new member comes, he will invite the new member and some old members and have lunch together to get to know each other. He really, really cared about everybody. And I'm so happy that when he was leaving Hawaii, I told Dick, I said, Dick, I'm going to miss you too much. So I will go to Alabama to visit you. And since you're not coming back here. So we did. My husband and I went to Alabama and spent a few days with Dick and his family there. And that was wonderful because to me, he's just a part of the family. And I miss him very much. And rest in peace.
Thank you very much, Ken and Lee Skulland. I know that Dick loved you both very much. Dick also brought to the Grassroot Institute many friends and scholars of national prominence, such as Mark Kousen, a renowned professor of economics. Mark created and runs Freedom Fest, the greatest gathering of free minds on earth. Dick was a regular participant. He loved to go to Las Vegas for those conferences. Mark, please share your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be a part of this celebration. In honor of Dick Rowland, I'm wearing my Hawaiian hat that I bought in Maui, and a Hawaiian shirt. It's an honor. I admire Dick Rowland because he started the Institute when he was 71, and I think that's really impressive. It kind of reminds me of Ray Kroc and starting McDonald's when he was 60 or 65. It just shows you that age is not an issue. If you want to start something, it doesn't matter how young or old you are to get started. So I really admire that. That's definitely a trait that all of us should admire. I first met Dick actually not in Hawaii, but at Freedom Fest. He just showed up. And one thing I admired about him, in running a big conference that gathers people from all over the world and all over the country, and you have to cajole people a lot of times. Oh, you've got to come to Freedom Fest, or you've got to come to this or that. And Dick Rowland, he just came. I didn't have to talk him into anything. He understood right from the beginning in the liberal movement, we must all hang together or we shall surely hang separately. And he didn't see think tanks. Lee mentioned the Acton Institute. He didn't see other think tanks as competitors, and we're raising money. You got to give money to us. You can't give money to someone else. There was none of that competition. Everything was cooperative. The enemy is out there, not inside. And there's too much infighting as it is in the freedom movement. The other thing I really admired about Dick was, and several of you have mentioned this, it's not right and left. We need to eliminate from our vocabulary the political spectrum that's used by the establishment, which is basically meant to smear people, to divide people, not to bring us together. But Dick had this concept of up and down, up liberty, down tyranny, kind of a totem pole. I use a totem pole when I teach economics instead of the political spectrum. So I really admire him for that. He, of course, was famous for always correcting me when I would call it the Grassroots Institute. So, Ilya, I know what you mean about that. Learned my lesson. So it's always going to be the Grassroot Institute. And Grassroot is individual effort. And we're fighting those battles even today. In the latest battle in Georgia to keep government sane. This is a very difficult time period, and Dick has a lot to be said for that. So finally, let me say that we are going to dedicate a room to Dick Rowland at our Freedom Fest conference, which is being held in South Dakota, of all places, this year, because it's about one of the few states that is free and will allow us to have the freedom. I'm really looking forward to dedicating a room to Dick Rowland and maybe include some of those quotes. So thank you all again for allowing me to participate, pay tribute to a giant in the patriot movement.
Thank you very much, Mark. I know how much Dick just loved to spend time at Freedom Fest. Dick also brought other great minds from across the nation together to work on Grassroot Institute initiatives and projects. Ilya Shapiro is one of those. Ilya is the Director of Constitutional Studies at the Cato Institute. He would frequently offer expertise to Dick on legal cases and policy issues that we were tackling. Ilya, please share your thoughts with us.
Aloha, everyone. It's a pleasure and an honor to be with you, to memorialize Dick, who was a singular individual. His gracious hospitality was readily apparent. A gruff exterior quickly melted away to keep everyone on mission while having a good time. And with a twinkle in his eye always. I remember one time he took me to Zippy's for lunch. Try the Spam, he said, and then to buy Hawaiian shirts, including this one. Making sure that I selected traditional prints that weren't too gaudy and insisting on paying for them. I will miss him, but his spirit lives on in his family, his friends, and of course, the Grassroot Institute. Thank you very much. You'll be missed, Dick.
Ilya, thank you very much, and thank you for your continued work with the Institute. One of the unique factors of Dick Rowland is his ability to attract around him young men and women who are eager to advance the cause of liberty. One such was a staff person who was on board when I first came here, Malia Blom-Hill, who has remained with us and is our senior policy director, although she now lives in Washington, D.C. Thanks to the miracle of telecommunication, she's able to continue her work with us. But she learned a lot from Dick, and I know he was very, very fond of her. Malia, would you share your thoughts with us, please?
Hello. Thank you for giving me a few moments to remember Dick. You know, it's hard to remember exactly what the circumstances were that first brought me together with Dick Rowland. It's more like there are two periods in my professional life, my pre-Dick Rowland and post-Dick Rowland period. All I know is that at some point I became part of Dick's network and then inexorably, inevitably part of the Grassroot Institute. As we've heard over the course of this memorial, there are some people who just have this gift to make connections between people, and Dick was the master of that. You know, you couldn't have a conversation with him without him mentioning at least a half a dozen people who might be knowledgeable or helpful on any particular topic. And Dick being Dick, you'd hang up the phone and almost immediately you'd get a follow-up from him with the contact information from everyone he mentioned. not to mention a few articles that would explore some topic that you had been discussing. I've never met anyone who poured themselves into a cause like Dick with his passion for liberty. I was thinking about this the other day, and I was thinking, you know, knowing Dick, it's probably a little bit like what it would have been like to know Benjamin Franklin, like right down to the humorous maxims. It was the poet William Butler Yeats who wrote, "Think like a wise man, but communicate in the language of the people." And that quote perfectly describes Dick Rowland. He absorbed, he distributed wisdom constantly, but his way of communicating was just perfectly him. It was witty, succinct, warm, down to earth. He was always looking for ways to transform his ideas into the language of the people and to infect others with that same passion for liberty that drove him. You know, I remember talking with him when he was first developing his now trademark phrase of moving upward towards liberty. And he was just driven so much by this desire to remove the discussion of liberty and big government from these rigid political elements of left and right and Republican and Democrat, because more than anything, he just wanted people to see how much they had in common in our drive for freedom. You know, in the younger generation, it might be a little unfashionable to call someone a true American, or at least old-fashioned. But I think that Dick was really the epitome of that term. He was everything I think about when I think of America and what is great about it. His drive, his independence, his love of freedom, his boundless optimism, and his sense of community and looking out for each other. I will miss Dick with my whole heart. And I'm so grateful that he was part of my life. He was a mentor, he was a friend, and he was an inspiration.
Malia, thank you very much. Your thoughts express what all of us on staff feel. We appreciate your ongoing work in the Grassroot Institute. Well, I hope that all of you have enjoyed these testimonials. I've been moved and inspired, not only in my remembrance of Dick, but also in a vision for the future. All the words that have been shared have been very moving, and they tell us that life is something that we need to grab by the horns and move upward in always. I'd like you to sit back and just open your heart and mind now as we view a video presentation with some of the words and images of the life of Dick Rowland. It was put together by our Executive Vice President, Joe Kent, who has deeply, deeply looked into the life of Dick. Many years ago, I said, sit down with Dick, interview him, take notes. Let's try to, in some way or another, archive everything in Dick's mind. I don't think we could possibly have achieved that goal, but we have a little bit and would love to share that with you. Joe Kent, would you please introduce the video and share it with us?
Well, thank you. Dick changed my life. I was a teacher, and Dick Rowland called me up and said, I want you to work for the Grassroot Institute. So I said, okay, and I've followed that direction and his direction upward ever since, and I've collected a lot of his sayings and put them in a video here I hope you'll enjoy.
We think that the individual is paramount, and that's why we call it the Grassroot Institute. It's not the Grassroots Institute. Our prejudice is always towards more power to the individual, more power to the family, less power to the government. So we want to shrink the government. We want to grow individual responsibility and accountability. In other words, the individual makes a mistake, the individual does wrong, and so forth. And so accountability is essential. By the way, that's also essential for the government. If we could just find a way to make the government accountable for some of its mischief. Forget the left and forget the right. Those are meaningless terms. What we need to look at is whether it's taking us up towards individual liberty or down towards statism and the bigger and more intrusive state. And what I like to say is just in simple terms, the bigger the government gets, the smaller you get. The bigger you get, the smaller the government can be.
So the more,
and the smaller the government will get. If many of us get more and more powerful, the government will shrink. Elected officials are not leaders. They are followers. And if the American people, if the people of Hawaii County start standing up and start insisting to ask this question, is it up or is it down? Is it making me bigger or is it making me smaller? Society is going to slowly change. When society changes, politics changes automatically. Somebody has to watch these people that are running the government, and the Declaration said, guess who has that obligation, authority, responsibility? We the people. If you would just say after me, if it is to be, it is up to me.
Just be sure you know I'm not leaving Hawaii. I'm gonna still be here somewhere.
I'll be watching.
Wow, that was powerful. I don't know if there's a dry eye out there in our virtual community today as we have honored Dick. It's really an inspiration to see how many lives Dick touched and how much he meant to all of us. As the news of his passing has spread, many people have reached out to us at the Grassroot Institute wanting to share their stories about Dick. We've put these stories on our website at grassrootinstitute.org/Rowland, and you can share your own story there as well. You may be wondering how you can support the ongoing work of Dick's legacy. The board of directors has encouraged me to establish the Dick Rowland Memorial Fund. I invite you to make a special contribution that will enable Grassroot to continue Dick's work of promoting individual liberty, free markets, and limited accountable government throughout Hawaii and the nation and the world. Just go to the web link, grassrootinstitute.org/Rowland. And by the way, while you're there, you can watch the recording of today's ceremony again and that very special video that Joe Kent produced. Mahalo, Joe. Well, hasn't this remembrance of Dick been inspiring? Mahalo to all of our speakers for your profound comments. And mahalo to all of you in attendance for taking the time today to honor Dick Rowland, our founder and chairman emeritus. And now, go forth and make your day great. Upward.